Societal attitudes towards same-sex relationships has evolved over the past century at the same pace as filmmaking itself.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing.
It was over a century ago, in 1895, when the first film where synchronized sound with moving pictures had been exhibited, titled the Dixon Experimental Sound Film. This is in a time where the homosexual community were repressed by law enforcement and even punished in accordance with current laws of the state for acts of homosexuality. Audiences at the time were shocked to see a subversion of conventional male behavior because two men were dancing around in a manner traditionally danced by a man and woman, and later labeled the film the Gay Brothers. It was noted that men were paranoid about standing too close together after the film, afraid of being labeled gay. Technically, it was unacceptable to categorically say who's gay back then. In fact, gay characters were identified as sissy or pansy characters in film terminology. And by the 1920s, film was well on its way to forming its industry, and filmmakers had begun presenting the crudest ideas and challenging the moral beliefs of society. By 1914, New York hosted the Lesbian and Gay Festival, where the film A Florida Enchantment was a story of a woman turning into a man and vice versa, displaying acts of lesbian and gay relations. The sissy character was a hit, and there was no other way to portray a gay character on screen and keep everyone happy. Even so, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops rated any film with significant gay content as morally offensive. In 1930, the film Morocco hosted the first lesbian kiss on screen. It was the beginning of the Great Depression, and filmmakers were being urged to drive up the shock value in their films to draw in their audiences. The result was filmmakers using tales of violence, prostitution, and use of the sissy character again. 1934, Wonderbar nearly got shut down for a single scene where a man approaches another man asking him to dance. It was Warner Brothers' greatest hit in the 30s and 40s. 1934, the Legion of Decency, led by representatives of the Roman Catholic community and film industry leaders, formed the new production code. Administration, which was a body that reviewed and approved films in accordance with what was considered moral and decent films, any homosexual representation with this body in effect could only be shown as a villain or a victim of a crime they have committed as a result of their homosexual nature. 1953, Glen or Glenda, which in its own right is a cult film due to budget and idiosyncratic style, it was also denied classification by the BBFC. The director Ed Wood was a cross-dresser, and he made a documentary-style film about Glenda, a transvestite who identifies as a woman. The film was intended to be a plea for tolerance, that our inner parts can be of the opposite sex of our outside parts biologically, and that this is a real thing, not a mental delusion. The film flopped and went down in history as a cult classic. Worst film ever. 1959, and filmmakers were beginning to sack the production code and unleash the true depictions of society and the kinds of people it produces. Some Like It Hot openly had gay men and bi-curious women, proud drag queens, and a series of entertaining comedic events that made it the most successful film of the century. Not just for the ticket sales it acquired, but because it officially killed the Hays Code, forcing the PCA to retire and introduce the Motion Picture Association, which assigned the rating system that films still use today.